My name is Manuel. I am 64 years old. This is the story of the Hawaii trip I spent a lifetime dreaming of and saving for, and the moment it all shattered right at the airport. I was standing there with my suitcase and the excitement of a grandfather, my hand holding the paper ticket I had bought myself, while my son David told me there had been a mix-up. His voice was cold. "I forgot to buy your ticket, Dad. Just go home." Everything I thought I knew about my family changed in that moment. Before I tell you what happened next, I'm curious where you are listening to this story from. A small town in the Midwest or maybe a busy city? Let me know down in the comments. And if you want to hear the story of how I got through this, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps me find the motivation to keep sharing. For me, happiness was always built with my hands and measured in quiet moments. After my wife Sarah passed when David was just 10, it was just the two of us. I worked as a maintenance supervisor for the school district, fixing boilers and unclogging drains so our vacations were not fancy. They were camping trips to state parks, sleeping in an old tent teaching David how to fish with a worm on a hook. He would complain about the mosquitoes, but his laughter by the campfire was everything to me. I saved every extra dollar in a coffee can for his college fund. Seeing him graduate, that was my Hawaii. He shot up past me, got a business degree, and became this real estate mogul out in Phoenix. I was so proud. He lived in a house with a pool that looked like a magazine picture. He married Chloe, a woman who always smelled like expensive flowers. They had two beautiful kids, Jake and Lily. My world, once so small and focused, suddenly had these bright, faraway stars in it. I would visit, but I always felt a little out of place, like my work boots were too heavy for their polished floors. Then about 3 months ago, he called. His voice had that smooth, confident tone he used for big deals. "Dad, we're doing something big. A 2-week family vacation to Hawaii, all expenses paid, my treat. It's time to thank you for everything." I remember sitting down at my kitchen table, the one I'd refinished myself, and my eyes just filled with tears. This was it. The dream I had quietly held since I saw a picture of Waikiki in a National Geographic as a boy. It was happening. But I am a man who has paid his own way his whole life. The idea of him paying for everything, even as a thank you, it sat uneasy with me. I had savings. Not a fortune, but a careful nest egg from my pension and from selling some of my vintage tool collection to other enthusiasts. $35,000. It was my rainy day fund, my security blanket. In my mind, this was the ultimate rainy day, a sunny one in paradise with my family. So I told him I wanted to contribute. He resisted, said it was his gift, but I insisted. "Let me handle the lodging, son. It'll make me feel like I'm part of it." After a pause, he agreed. I transferred the entire $35,000 into our joint account, the one we'd set up years ago for emergencies. "Use this for the resort," I said. The next 2 months were the happiest I'd been in years. I bought a new pair of khaki shorts and 2 Hawaiian shirts. I spent hours at the library reading travel books, circling places I wanted to see: the Pearl Harbor Memorial, a real luau, the black sand beaches. I told my neighbor Frank all about it over the fence. I even went to the toy store and bought little snorkel sets for Jake and Lily and a beautiful shell necklace for Chloe. I packed and repacked my suitcase a week early. The only cloud was how distant David and Chloe became in the final weeks. Texts went unanswered for days. When I called, David was always in a closing or about to jump on a Zoom. Chloe called once just to ask for my flight details in a clipped, efficient voice. "We'll meet you at the airport. Don't be late." I brushed it off. My successful son was a busy man. My daughter-in-law was just stressed with planning. I was so wrapped up in my own joy that I ignored the chill creeping into their voices. The day of the flight, I was at the international terminal 2 hours early. I wore my favorite new shirt, the one with the subtle plumeria pattern. My heart was beating like a teenager's. I watched families hugging, couples laughing, and I felt a part of something big. They arrived 45 minutes later. David looked sharp in a polo and sunglasses, already talking on his phone. Chloe gave me a quick, airy hug that didn't touch her body to mine. Jake and Lily were glued to tablets, headphones on. "Hey, Dad," David said, barely looking up from his screen. "Passport's ready." I handed mine over. He took it along with his families and tucked them all into his leather folder. Something about that felt off, but I was too excited to question it. We got in line for check-in. When we reached the counter, David and Chloe stepped forward. They handled everything for themselves and the kids. The agent handed over their boarding passes. Then David turned to me. "Just wait here a second, Dad." He and the agent spoke in low tones. My smile began to falter. I saw the agent look at me with a pitying expression, then shake her head slightly at David. David took my elbow and guided me away from the line over to a row of empty seats near a pillar. The noise of the airport seemed to fade. "Dad," he began, his voice shifting into what I called his boardroom calm tone. "There's been a problem, a huge oversight on my part." He let out a sigh, a performer's sigh. "I forgot to purchase a ticket for you. This flight is completely overbooked. Honestly, you should just go home. We'll reschedule for another time." The floor tilted. I actually gripped the back of a chair. "What? No, that can't be right." My hand fumbled in my carry-on bag, and I pulled out my printed itinerary, the one with the confirmation code I'd checked online for weeks. "See, here it is, my ticket." I thrust the paper at him. He didn't even look at it. "That's just the itinerary, Dad. It doesn't mean you have a seat. I never completed the booking for you. It's my fault." He sounded so reasonable, so apologetically regretful. Over his shoulder, I saw Chloe shepherding the kids toward the security line. She glanced back, once her face unreadable, then turned away. "Can't I get on another flight?" I heard the pleading in my own voice and hated it. "I can meet you there tomorrow." "The resort is all booked too." David said, his words final. "Look, I'm sorry. This is a mess. Just go home, get some rest. We'll figure it out when we get back." He clapped me on the shoulder, a hollow, dismissive gesture. "I gotta go or we'll miss our flight." And with that, he walked away, joining his family without a single look back. I stood there, a 64-year-old man in a Hawaiian shirt holding a useless piece of paper, watching my family disappear into the crowd. The crushing embarrassment was immediate. I felt every eye in the terminal on me, the old fool who didn't know how to book a trip. I shuffled to the curb, took a taxi home, and sat in my dark living room, the silence so loud it hurt my ears. The anger didn't come first. First came a deep, trembling shame. How could I have been so stupid? I believed him. I actually believed my own son had made such a colossal mistake. I replayed his words, his practiced pitying tone, the way Chloe wouldn't look at me. I called David's phone 6 times. It went straight to voicemail. I texted. Nothing. The silence was a confirmation of something terrible, something worse than a simple mistake. That's when a different part of me, the practical fix-it part, that had kept boilers running and families warm, kicked in. This made no sense. I had a confirmation code. Airlines don't just give those out for fun. I found the customer service number for the airline and called. I was on hold for 45 minutes listening to tinny music, my frustration building. Finally, a woman named Marcy came on the line. She sounded tired. I explained my situation, my voice shaking. I gave her my name and the confirmation code. I heard the tapping of keys. A long pause. "Okay, Mr. Manuel, I'm looking at this. There was a ticket purchased in your name, business class, on that exact flight." The air left my lungs. There was, "Yes, sir, purchased about 3 weeks ago." So why wasn't I allowed to board? My mind was reeling. "Well," Marcy said slowly, her voice dropping into a confidential tone, "that ticket was canceled 2 days ago. A refund was issued." A cold, hard knot formed in my stomach. Who canceled it? "I'm sorry, sir, I can't disclose that, but the refund was processed to the original form of payment." The original payment? David's card, not mine. I'd given him the money, but he had booked it. The pieces, sharp and ugly, began to click together. I thanked Marcy, my voice a whisper. I logged into my online banking to the joint account. The balance, which should have been just over $35,000, was 0. The transaction history showed a single transfer out 2 days ago to an account I didn't recognize. The same day my ticket was canceled. It wasn't an oversight. It was a plan. They took my life savings, my security, my dream fund, and then they canceled my ticket so they could go on their vacation with my money. The pain that hit me then was physical, a punch to the chest that made me gasp. My son, my David, had looked me in the eye at that airport and lied so he could steal from me. The betrayal was so complete, so calculated, it felt like the world had turned black and white. I remembered his offhand comments during my last visit. He'd mentioned a complex deal that had soured, that he was in a liquidity bind. I had offered to help. He'd said no, it was fine. He was just venting. I realized now he was laying the groundwork, seeing how sympathetic I was, how willing I was to open my wallet. He must have seen my transfer as a godsend, and I had served it to him on a silver platter. I sat in the dark for a long time. The shock wore off, leaving behind a clear, cold clarity. This was not a family misunderstanding. This was financial predation, and I had allowed it by being the trusting open wallet of a father. I waited a few hours until I calculated their flight would have landed. I pictured them in the Hawaiian sun collecting their bags, feeling clever. I called David's number again. This time he answered on the second ring. I could hear the sounds of a bustling airport terminal, Hawaiian music playing faintly in the background, Lily laughing somewhere. Dad, look, I'm sorry, it's crazy here. Where's my $35,000, David? My voice was flat calm. It didn't sound like my own. Silence. Then a forced laugh. What, Dad, what are you talking about? The money I transferred for the lodging. It's gone from the account. My ticket was canceled 2 days ago. You looked me in the eye and lied to me. You stole from me. The facade cracked. The smooth, confident voice vanished, replaced by a panicked, defensive hiss. Whoa, stole. That's a strong word. I was going to pay you back. We needed this, Dad. You don't understand the pressure I'm under. The market, the deals. We needed a break. That money, it's just sitting there for you. You live simply. It doesn't affect you like it affects us. His words were like shards of glass. He had quantified my life, you live simply, and found my need for security less important than his need for a luxury vacation. Then I heard Chloe's voice in the background, shrill and clear. Is that him? Tell him to stop being so selfish. He's ruining this for everyone. Hearing that, something in me finally completely broke. Not into pieces, but into something hard and immovable. The love was still there, buried under an avalanche of hurt, but it was no longer blind. It was over. You listen to me? I said, each word measured and solid. I understand perfectly. I understand that you are a thief and a liar, and I understand that you and your wife see me as nothing more than an ATM. Okay, I understand. Dad, don't be dramatic. I'm done. I cut him off. Do not contact me again unless it is to return every single cent of my money. You have made your choice, and now I am making mine. I hung up. My hands were steady. I didn't cry. I felt a terrifying sense of freedom. The bonds were cut. I was no longer Manuel, the father, Manuel, the grandfather. I was just Manuel, a man who had been robbed and betrayed. And I knew exactly what I was going to do. I called Marcy back. It was late, but she was still there. I told her I needed the first available flight to Honolulu the next morning. I didn't care about the cost. I used my credit card, the one with a modest limit I kept for true emergencies. This qualified. I wasn't going to reconcile. I was going to confront. But on my terms, on that island, under that sun. He thought he'd left the old man behind. He was about to learn the old man could still travel. Landing in Honolulu felt like stepping onto another planet. The air was thick with the scent of flowers and salt. Everyone moved with a relaxed pace I couldn't fathom. I felt utterly alone, a stark, angry silhouette against all the postcard perfection. I rented the smallest, cheapest car I could find and drove to a modest motel in Waikiki, a place with stucco walls and a ceiling fan a world away from the oceanfront resort I knew they were at. I had the confirmation email for their hotel, the Grand Kaimana. That evening I drove there. I parked across the street and sat in my rental car watching. And then I saw them. They emerged from the lobby, David in linen pants, Chloe in a flowing dress. They were smiling. They looked light, unburdened. Jake and Lily were hopping with excitement, pointing at the ocean. They had done it. They had gotten away with it. The sight of their joy, funded by my sacrifice, ignited a cold fury in me that burned away any last shred of doubt. The next morning, I put on my other Hawaiian shirt. I walked into the airy open-air restaurant of the Grand Kaimana at 8 a.m. It was full of families enjoying lavish breakfast buffets. I scanned the room and found them at a table by the koi pond. I walked straight over. David saw me first. His fork loaded with pineapple froze halfway to his mouth, his face drained of all color. Chloe followed his gaze. Her hand flew to her mouth. Jake looked up. "Grandpa!" he yelled, a genuine smile on his face. Lily copied him, "Grandpa." "Good morning," I said, my voice carrying just enough to be heard at their table and maybe the next one. I did not raise it. I just have a few things to say, and I wanted to say them where the children could hear. David stood up, knocking his chair back. "Dad, what are you doing? Let's go outside and talk about this." "No," I said, calm as the pond water behind him. "We'll talk right here. I know about the $35,000. I know you canceled my ticket. I am not here to ruin your vacation." I looked at Jake and Lily, whose smiles had vanished into confusion. "I am here to tell you that from now on, things will be different." I turned my full gaze to David. "You made a choice, and now I have made mine." I reached into my pocket and pulled out a standard white business envelope. I placed it on the table in front of his untouched plate. "This is what happens next." I gave a small curt nod to my grandchildren, my heart breaking for them. Then I turned and walked out, leaving a bubble of stunned silence at their table, surrounded by the clatter of other people's happy vacations. Inside the envelope was a simple typed letter and several photocopied documents. The letter was brief. David. Enclosed are copies of the bank transfer of $35,000 from my account to our joint account, and the subsequent transfer out to an account ending in 8891. Also a record from the airline confirming my purchase ticket was canceled under your authorization. You have 48 hours to transfer the full sum of $35,000 into the new account listed below. This is not a negotiation. If the funds are not received within 48 hours, I will 1. File a formal complaint with the Arizona Association of Realtors, including all documentation detailing how you obtained funds from a client, your father, under false pretenses. 2. Share the complete story with documentation on all social media platforms where you and Chloe maintain a professional and personal presence, tagging your firm and key contacts. The choice, as always, is yours. Manuel. The new account number was one I had opened online from my motel room. My phone started ringing before I even got back to the car. It was David. The panic in his voice was now pure, undiluted terror. Dad, you can't do this. This will destroy me, my career, my reputation. Please, we can work this out. We are working it out, I said, driving along the coast. The terms are in the envelope. Return the money and I take no further action. That is the deal. You're blackmailing your own son. I am presenting consequences for theft, I corrected him. Blackmail is for secrets. This is just the truth. You have 47 hours now. He called back 4 more times that day, each call a whirlwind of pleading anger and fake remorse. Chloe called once crying, saying I was tearing the family apart. I told her the family was torn the moment they decided to steal from its eldest member. The hardest call came that evening. It was from Jake's iPad. His small, shaky voice came through. Grandpa, Dad, and Mom are yelling a lot. They said you're being mean, but why did they lie about your ticket? Mom said it was a mistake, but Dad said you wouldn't understand about money. That nearly broke me. I closed my eyes. Jake, I said softly, sometimes grown-ups make very bad choices when they are scared about money. They told a lie to cover up that bad choice. It wasn't a mistake. Lying to someone you love is never a mistake. It's a choice, and I'm sorry you have to hear them fighting. Are you still my grandpa? He asked, and the tears in his voice were my own. Always, Jake. That never changes. I love you and your sister very much. That is a different thing from being angry with your parents. You remember that, okay? Okay. The money hit the new account with 12 hours to spare. It was a wire transfer. A minute later, a long text from David came through. It was filled with what felt like the first real shame I'd seen from him. He talked about the pressure, the humiliation of failure, how he saw my savings as an easy fix. He said he was sorry, truly sorry for hurting me. He said he would understand if I never wanted to see him again. It was a good text. It was also about $35,000 too late. I didn't fly home right away. I had my money back. I had a week left in my motel room paid for with my own card. So I stayed. I went to Pearl Harbor alone. I stood on the deck of the USS Arizona Memorial, the quiet reverence of the place seeping into my bones. I drove to the North Shore and watched the giant waves humbled by their raw power. I ate plate lunch from a food truck sitting on a plastic chair at the side of the road. I talked to the old Japanese man who ran the motel about fishing. I was lonely, but it was a clean loneliness, one I had chosen. It was not the desperate isolation of being abandoned. The healing wasn't a sudden sunrise. It was a slow, quiet tide coming in. I thought about Sarah, my late wife. I wondered what she would have thought of the man our son became. I realized I had spent so many years defining myself as David's dad, the provider, the supporter, the silent foundation, that I had completely lost Manuel. I had let my love become a blank check, and in doing so I had helped create a man who believed love and money were the same currency. I would not cut Jake and Lily out of my life. They were innocent, but I would see them on neutral ground, maybe at a park for ice cream with clear boundaries. With David and Chloe, the relationship was forever altered. The trust was ash. I could perhaps one distant day be in the same room for a graduation or a wedding, but the easy, warm bond of father and son was gone. I mourned that. I let myself cry for it, finally sitting on that motel balcony as the sun set. I cried for the little boy who loved camping, not the man who stole from me. The deep lesson I learned is this: Sometimes the greatest act of love you can offer someone and yourself is not giving everything you have but setting a limit. Kindness without boundaries is just permission for others to overrun you. And forgiveness does not require you to forget or to ever again put yourself in the position where you can be hurt in the same way. I still carry a picture of David as a gap-toothed 7-year-old in my wallet. I will always love that little boy in that photo. But the man he chose to become? I am learning to love that man from a safe distance. And strangely, from that distance, I'm finally starting to see myself again, just Manuel, for the first time in many, many years. Now I have a question for all of you listening. Have you ever had to set a really difficult boundary with someone you love? How did you find the strength to do it? Share your story in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please give this video a like. It lets me know what kind of stories matter to you. If you want to join me for more honest conversations about family forgiveness and finding your footing later in life, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you do not miss the next story. And if you know someone who might need to hear this today, please share it with them. Thank you for listening, for your time, and for being part of this community. I wish you all peace and the courage to build the fences you need around your own heart. Take care.